What's up YouTube, my name is Alec, and in today's video I'm giving you the in-depth Warden guide for Operation Dread Factor. Let's get into the video. So first, let's go over Warden's loadout. Warden has a choice between the SAS shotgun, which comes on all of the SAS operators, pretty good shotgun, or the choice of the MPX, which comes on Valkyrie. Now, personally, I would always run the MPX on Warden because his MPX specifically has a 1.5 times scope. This is very important because the 1.5 times scope is the best scope in the entire game right now. It's not too zoomed out and it's not too zoomed in, making it the perfect scope for every single gunfight at every single range. This is especially strong because the MPX has very little recoil and a high fire rate, meaning that if you can aim head level paired with the 1.5 times scope that I just mentioned, this primary SMG can be an absolute headshot machine, an absolute laser beam, if you will. The only downside of this SMG is its low damage, but if you're able to control the recoil, you can equip the extended barrel to give it a little bit more damage to alleviate this specific issue. Personally though, I always run flash hider just because it's a bit more consistent in how the recoil works, meaning I can hit headshots a lot more, so body shot damage doesn't really matter to me. Going into his secondary weapons, he has the SMG-12. This is the preferred secondary weapon. It has high fire rate, high ammo count for a secondary SMG. There's one major issue though, and that is vertical recoil. This thing is very hard to control vertically, especially for newer players, so if you can't use it, I would just use the secondary pistol instead. You can, however, go into the shooting range, go into a T-hunt, go into deathmatch, and you can practice the recoil there, so really there's no excuse to not run the SMG-12 once you learn how to control it. Now, moving on to his secondary gadgets, he has three solid options here. The first being a deployable shield. With Smoke and Alibi losing their deployable shields, this is almost a must pick for his loadout. If your team is already bringing a shield though, his second solid option is the Nitro Cell. Pair this up with his ability to see through smokes, and you can easily deny the plant wherever it may go down because you can see through the smoke and shoot a Nitro Cell where they're planting. Finally, he has the observation blockers, which at first glance aren't too good, but in a very niche situations and niche strategies, these can be highly impactful if used correctly. Finally, he has his primary gadget, the Lance Smart Glasses. This is an ability that when it activates allows you to be completely immune to flash grenades and allows you to see through smokes for a short amount of time when you're standing still and when it's activated. Now, going more in depth about his actual ability, this is a rechargeable ability, so you want to use it sparingly because it doesn't actually last forever. You never want to activate it randomly throughout the round because the length of time this ability can be active is very, very short, like I just stated. If you need a frame of reference for how short this ability is, think of Vigil and Cav's ability and how big their meters are and how fast it recharges and how fast it's spent. That should give you a rough estimate of how Warden's ability is. So this being said, if you can't use his ability for very long and you want to use it sparingly because it's a rechargeable ability, then when should you use his ability? Well, there's a few answers to this question. Firstly, and most obviously, you want to use his ability to counter smoke grenades, meaning you only want to activate it when you see or hear the attackers throw a smoke grenade or you see the smoke grenade being placed in front of you. This will allow you to see through the smoke grenade for the duration that your ability is active, usually long enough to kill anybody sitting behind or inside of the smoke or anybody running through it trying to get a plant down. The second time to use his ability is to counter flashes or flash grenades. This is a much more difficult thing to do because flashes take a lot less time to detonate, which gives you a lot less time to react to somebody throwing a flash grenade in your face. Take into account the amount of time you have to react and also the amount of time that it takes to actually activate your ability, and you have maybe a few seconds at most to counter a flash grenade with your ability. And this is all if it wasn't already activated beforehand. Also, if attackers are using flash grenades, typically this is a sign that they're about to execute onto the bomb site and run at you, or maybe just try to get a kill off of their flash grenade. So not only do you have to quickly react to the flashes, but also you'll need to quickly react to the attackers that's bound to be behind the flash grenade that's bound to try to get into a gunfight with you. So there's a lot of reaction time involved with trying to counter a flash grenade or a flash grenade rush that's in your face. Finally, the last way that you can use Warden is to counter certain operators that use things that can be countered by Warden. So for one, if the attacking team is running operators like Capitao, Glaz, Ying, or Sens, picking Warden to counter these various operators is a viable tactic. Not only this, but most of the time if attackers see you have a Warden, they will probably switch off of any of the previously mentioned operators because of this, so making it to where you effectively countered them before they even picked them or before they even spawned in. So this is super powerful. If you know that they might run a Glaz, they might run a Sens, they might run a Ying because they've been running them a lot previously, you can just run a Warden and that pretty much makes them to where they won't pick those operators, or if they do, you can completely counter them. So it's a very viable way to play Warden just as a precautionary insurance to make sure that they don't run those certain operators that I just mentioned. Now that we've gone over when to use Warden's ability and what it is, let's go over his general play style. How do you play as Warden? Well, there's many different ways that you can play Warden, and there's many different play styles in the general game of Rainbow Six Siege. These are typically defined by their roles. So to give you the main three roles in the game, there's support, fraggers, and flex operators. Supports are meant to play passively. Fraggers are meant to play aggressively, and flex operators are meant to adapt their playstyle to fit either aggressive or passive depending on what their team needs. Warden is a flex operator, meaning you're meant to adapt your playstyle to the given situation at hand. Now, if the enemy team is going for a utility heavy smoke plant, you are meant to play passively as a support to deny their plant with your glasses. If the enemy team is going for kills and not as much utility, then you're meant to use his MPX with the 1.5 times scope to get those kills and secure the round for your team. All in all, Warden is meant to adapt to the situation at hand, but there's one slight issue with this. The current meta that Siege is in is a gun skill meta. This means that there is typically less utility used and the rounds come down to guns a lot more and a lot quicker than compared to how the game used to be. People are generally just running at you and trying to get gunfights more than they're trying to use a utility heavy sort of playstyle. This means that most of the time you're going to use Warden aggressively to get kills with a 1.5 times scope MPX to fit this fast-paced aggressive meta so that you can keep up. Due to this and higher elo, he has one of the highest KDs in all of Siege because he's easily adaptable to an aggressive playstyle which attracts frag players heavily. This being said, although he excels at fragging, like I said, he's a flex operator, so he can also excel to support. Using Warden to hold down an area of the map is also a viable option because of this. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're playing Warden for the first floor kitchen on Cafe. As Warden, it's a viable option to hold down Bakery as kind of a one-man army. You're able to ward off the flash rush, the ying rush, the upside down repelled glass on the Bakery double door, any smokes that come your way at all, and even nitro cell to kill any shield operators that rush you, any OSA players, or an outstanding SMG to kill anybody that your nitro cell can't. He is the all-in-one package for holding down a room and or a power position like Bakery and Cafe for any type of player at all. And best of all, he's super easy to do it with and super easy to learn. But now that we've gone over the basics of Warden, how to play him, what he does, and his general play style, let's go over some cool tips and tricks that I can teach you with him. First of all, like I said earlier, Warden counters flash grenades. Not only do his glasses make him completely immune to any flash grenades that come to him when his ability is already activated, but if you do get flashed as Warden, activating his ability while you're already flashed will completely remove the flash effect from your eyeballs instantaneously. So not only do you have to worry about countering flashes before they come, but even if you do get flashed, you can just activate his ability to remove the flash. Very, very effective. Next, like I said earlier, Warden's ability does counter smoke grenades as it allows you to see through them, but there's a huge contingency to this part of his ability. You can only fully see through the smoke if you're standing completely still. Faster and more you move, you gradually are able to see through the smoke less and less. So unfortunately, you can't just move around and swing smoke grenades, especially because a Glaz will more often than not be sitting behind it ready to use his utility and his guns to gun you down. If you ever played Glaz, you know that this is the exact same premise with his ability. The more you move as Glaz, the less you're actually able to see through the smoke. It is the exact same thing with Warden. One other thing I want to go over is the potential use of his or your teammates' observation blockers. Like I said earlier, using observation blockers paired up with Warden in very niche and strategic situations, very effective if you know how to do it correctly, and I'm going to teach you how to do that right now. The ability to not be droned is very powerful to a Warden because it allows you to surprise enemies who are using abilities you are able to counter with ease. So if they don't know you're playing Warden, they're typically going to bring flashes and smokes, and this is a great trump card that you can use because you counter all of this easily, allowing you to win rounds for your team that you otherwise wouldn't be able to win if you didn't have the observation blockers to hide your identity. It also makes it to where when you shoot them through a smoke or after a flash, they don't know where you shot them from. This can allow for easier one-on-one gunfights, but it also allows the potential for multi-kills, meaning you can easily put your team in a man advantage and potentially win the entire round for your team, like I just said earlier. Playing around his or your teammate's deployable shield can be just as, if not much more effective as well. Sitting behind a shield already promotes a playstyle consisting of sitting very still and playing passively, which is again very good for Warden because you have to sit still for his glasses, and playing passively is good to deny smokes. Also, this is good because, as I said earlier, you have to sit mostly still to counter smokes anyways, so sitting behind the deployable shield as Warden is very cohesive with his ability and playstyle. Overall, Warden is just as simple as he is effective, considering that you only have to click a button to use his ability. He's very, very simple, so he's a very good for new player and experienced players alike. He's just as good in a high elo as he is in low elo, if not even better, so he is definitely a strong operator right now for Operation Dread Factor. I can safely say he is a very good and meta operator right now. Because of how simple he is though, it's very hard to make a long and extensive and in-depth guide with him, which is why this was a very short video. That being said, in conclusion for the video, Warden is an outstanding flex operator who is great for fraggers and anchors alike. If you want to stay on the bomb site but still have the satisfaction and the impact on the round from getting kills with a good gun, Warden is the best operator to do so, and it's definitely the right operator for you. But with that being said, that's it for the Warden guide, and if you want to see more of me, check out my Kickstream link down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more content like this and get overall better at the game by watching me. Like the video if you liked it, sub to the channel down below. My name's Alec, and I will see you on the next video. Later.